I brought copies of two different books that I put out. One that came out in 2005, one that came out in 2011. The two people who wrote those books, because I consider them to be separate people, one who started off on this journey of like expression and entertainment, and the other 6 years later, beaten down by self-doubt, beaten down by a search for validation that really didn't exist. People clapping for you is not real validation. Depressed to the point of being hospitalized. Really depressing shit. Looking back at it, I haven't done one of these readings, I haven't done anything related to my writing in years. So I was sitting on the couch, looking through the books, trying to figure out what to read to you folks. And none of it felt like it came from me. So who's this third person? There's book one, hopeful guy, book two, super depressed person, and book three, which probably will never be written, but is the person standing before you right now, the person who I'm experiencing happiness and fulfillment and validation I thought was reserved for other people. All this time, I thought I could never. I won't make it to 30. I won't make it to 35. I won't make it to 40, 45. I'll be 50 in a year and a half, and I'm happier and more fulfilled than I thought possible. I was dropping my kid off for her first day of kindergarten yesterday. And I watched her go and start a life without me, start something that wasn't centered around her life at home and her parents, but she walked into the school, she started making friends, and she started a life that wasn't mine and wasn't fully dependent on me. And all of a sudden, the validation that I had always hoped for, that I finally had, I felt like maybe it's going to slip away. It won't slip away if I make things. It won't slip away if I find a way to be creative. It won't slip away if I urge people to resist using AI and generative art. If I find a purpose. Of course, being a dad, doing good at work, being an artist, those are all purposes, but watching her walk away, watching her immediately start to make friends, and watching her just step into her life, I started feeling sad. And then my son in the back, a year and a half old, says, "Dada." So now I know I got 3 more years before I got to get my shit together. This version of the book, there's only like 3 copies in the world now, because this was the super depressing version that I wrote. And then I rewrote everything to spin it in a positive way and re-released that under a slightly different title. But in that, I was almost kind of trying to save my own life by being positive, whether it was genuine or not. Please keep loving me. When the thought of losing what we are feels like death's cold breath on the backs of our necks. When we are lumps in throats and when we are butterflies in stomachs, please keep loving me. When it does not come so naturally. When it is not easy, when it feels more like work than like play, please keep loving me. Please keep loving me when, through my blind carelessness or my dishonesty, I scratch open our old wounds. And when our wild animal hearts begin to tug at their chains, cursing everything that holds them home, please keep loving me. When your eye wanders more often than it watches over me, and when your body lusts for new adventures, love me. If ever the shadow you cast colors the darker shade, the pillows, the blankets, the body of another, lying in a place that feels more like the scene of a terrible crime than like a home, even then, especially then, please keep loving me. And when our old faults are far behind us, let's laugh at the day we're living and happily go where it takes us. Let's hold the brightest of hopes for tomorrow and the day after that. Love me. when we make copies of ourselves and spend decades mixing in the best ingredients we have to offer up. Through all of that, as challenging as it will be, please keep loving me. One day, those children will move away and search for love, love like what their parents had. And we will make our circle small again. In times when our perfect harmony is the envy of all of our friends, of course, please keep loving me, but love me just as well when that perfect harmony is really nothing more than a mirage our friends see from their desolate perspective. When I'm the boat and you're the sea, I want to be a wave or the wind or the shore. But we can't help what we are, and for a short time we may refuse to flow together. Please keep loving me while we wait for calmer weather and the safety of low tide. And in those last years, when what's left of old tattoos and fading blue blotches are joined by brown spots of age marking our crinkled see-through skin, please keep loving me. When the house we bought with the money we earned from selling off our youthful years starts to fall apart, when the paint chips and the pipes leak, when our floorboards and our walls give way to wind and our hallways creak and shiver, when the roof begins to let in rain, when our love pushes up with the same strength as gravity, it will be what holds that old house together. When even more years have escaped us and our sons and daughters have come home for the holidays and they bring us pamphlets from rest homes, hoping to coax us from the only comfort we know. Let's both try to remember they mean only the best for us. Love me when they've taken us away to make new friends at card tables, roll around in chair parades, shuffle on canes, to wait out the twilight in buffet lines. And when we've settled in, start to rust up and die of natural causes, love me as you watch me being scooped up off the floor by a well-trained staff of strangers. Before, during, and after all of this, love me and I will love you. When our sight begins to fail us as we're coming to the end, I hope we can still clearly see the reasons we spent the only lives we had together. When all of this truth comes to be, please, please keep loving me. The view from the top of Shit Mountain. I fucked my way to the top of a mountain made of shit. And what did it get me? Nothing but lightheaded from the thin air, heavy-hearted with the weight of regret. No such thing as friends, just a short list of who hates me less. They are just strangers with better things to do than to be needed by somebody like me. Yeah. That was the headspace I used to be in, and when I read that now, it's like a fucking stranger wrote it. And when I was thinking about today, I was thinking like, I don't know who's going to be here. I don't know if it's going to be kids, it's going to be adults, who like people just getting into being creative, maybe for a living, or just being creative as a passionate thing. But I wanted to let everybody know who is creative, this is the time to make things. And rooms like this matter a lot, rooms where people are just here to share themselves. It's so rare. And maybe you come here every week. I haven't been to something like this in a long, long time. So to watch everyone express themselves in front of other people with no drums, no guitars, no bass behind them, it takes big fucking balls. And I appreciate you guys, everybody. Remember that day they found a human hand dead in a plastic bag behind that Chinese restaurant? I was skateboarding with some friends and we heard the news. We all got down there as fast as we could, but we didn't make it in time. The cops had already shown up, and the fire department and some other men were taking pictures and samples and swabbing fluids and all that stuff. None of us managed to get a glimpse of the hand. 3 days later, a friend of mine was smoking some dope out there where they found the hand. He passed out on the ground beside a garbage and recycling bin. And when his eyes opened again, he saw an old shoebox tucked beneath a big green dumpster. He got down as flat as he could and stretched his arm way in there, but he could not reach the box. He looked around for a stick or a pole or anything he could shove through the space under the bin, but there was nothing. He decided to push the dumpster in hopes of making a big enough space between the wall and the bin that he could scoot himself in. Well, it took a few minutes of sweaty effort, but he got in there and he managed to kick the box out from under the trash bin. He could not wait to see what was in there. At the very least, he figured it's a brand new pair of shoes, or maybe somebody's blood money stash, or drugs, or jewelry, or at least a good box to keep his random shit in. But it was a breast in the box. A woman's breast with a big round nipple, chopped off and starting to rot in a big sandwich bag. Someone had used black electrical tape to seal it up tight, and they had stuffed it into the shoebox and left it there with the garbage. That thing was part of a person, a part that felt it when it was touched and sucked and squeezed, and then it was just a thing, just an object. And the world will never know why, but this friend of mine who took the severed tit in the shoebox to his house, where he lived with his mom and his dad and his 2 sisters. And he put the box under his bed where it stayed for almost a week. Maybe he just wanted to see what it would look like after a few more days of decaying. Maybe he had plans to put it back where he found it and report it to the authorities. He used to do similar things with dead cats and dogs. I'm sure he had relatively innocent intentions, otherwise I doubt he would have told us that there was a dead tit rotting under his bed. We never got the chance to find out why he took that box home, because a few days after he found it, he got flattened by a bread truck while he was riding his scooter to work. So now, we knew this terrible secret, and if we didn't do anything, our dead friend was sure to become a nasty local legend. We all came up with a plan to sneak into his bedroom during the funeral after party his family was holding at their home, in hopes of stealing the shoebox and anonymously dropping it off at an emergency room or a church or a police station, because we couldn't bear the thought of his family discovering that thing. I spotted his mother by the window with an empty box of tissues in her hand. I threw back a glass of bad red wine, poured another, drank it too, and then stuffed a few napkins from the table into the breast pocket of my suit. It took me 1,000 years to cross the room. And when I got within a few steps of her, I took the napkins from my pocket and I held them out to her. He really was one of a kind, she said. I know he was. I'm so sorry. I'm sure he's in a better place now, I told her. And she said, there's no sense in lying to ourselves about going anywhere better or worse than this rotten world after living all these rotten fucking years. And she blew her nose into the napkins and let out a huge, sorrowful sigh. And she apologized. It's just been so hard for me, you know? Tragedy, I said. It really was a tragedy that he was taken from us. I was thinking about how sad it was that this was an important part of the grief process, but I wasn't really able to live honestly in that moment because there was somewhere else entirely. I was somewhere else entirely waiting for the right time to bring up the subject of going upstairs to her son's room. I cleared my throat and I cut to the chase. There are some clothes and a bunch of CDs that belong to me and I loaned to him. They're up in his room. I know exactly where they are. Do you think I could? Yes, of course, she said, and her eyes pointed up the stairs. She nodded her head and said, it's the first door on the left once you get up the stairs. I smiled at her and told her I knew where his room was and thanks, and that I would be right back down in just a minute. Both of his sisters were sitting on the stairs holding each other and crying. I stopped to say I was sorry and that he was surely in a better place now. They both smiled at me through their glassy, bloodshot eyes and nodded their heads, snipping the strings of snot from their lips and back up their noses. I hugged the girls and then I continued up the stairs to the first door on the left, and I was surprised to see how tidy his room was. The few times I'd ever been in his room, it smelled like shit, and there were plastic trays from microwave macaroni stacked up in columns atop every horizontal surface his mother must have cleaned up. I ducked down to look under the bed and lifted the blankets from the edge and peered into the dark, but I could not see a shoebox or anything, not even dust balls or crusty masturbation socks. Nothing. Nothing but Mom's feet now. Oh, fuck. She was standing in the doorway with both hands covering her mouth, her voice muffled through her fingers like she was in another room, but she was standing right there. And she squeaked, what did... She couldn't get a sentence out, and I was pushing my way by her and moving down the stairs. I left her standing in the doorway, still trying to get the words out. The question she needed more than anything to ask. Somehow she had to understand, and she was screaming, "You know why? Tell me. Why did he have..." And then the wailing started up, a nightmare sound that will live in a cave in the back of my mind until the day I die. And people in the living room wiping tears and trying to mourn, they all watched me fly out the front door and bound across the lawn as I disappeared into the neighborhood. I swear I had the happy book, but I don't. One thing I do want to say, I don't know how much time I have, but I was planning on selling books, and I think Robert was going to pay me to be here, which I find ridiculous. So any books that I sell this evening just goes back to this establishment with all the money. I know it won't be much, but if you want to donate $10 to the Poetry Center, grab a book, and let me figure out something that's not super sad and shitty. When I would be on tour with my bands, I would bring books to sell along, because your live show is a commercial for your t-shirts. I don't know. So play a good show, hopefully you'll get gas money from the shirts. I'd bring the books and people would buy the books, and it would sort of create this completely different relationship with fans of the bands. Like, they like the lyrics, they like the music, but then they get into these things. And the number of people across the world who have tattoos of the titles of these poems. And like I said, when I was looking through it on the couch trying to figure out what to read to you, I was like, I didn't do this. You know, that was 2 people ago. It's hard to accept credit if you've made something that has affected somebody and then you no longer identify with it, or I burned the last box of my books that I had, of the happy one. I had a few copies I was going to bring, but here I am, taming tigers. I had to learn to love myself in order to survive, because the feelings I had most of the time were not built to last. This dreamer will self-destruct in 5, 4, 3. Short fuse lit, not much time. It's against my nature to be positive. I do know that about myself. It's not always easy to smile. I take those deep breaths, and they come out used up, beaten down, long sorry sighs. Me, broken, beat up, and defeated. Like this, I'm no fun to be around, that's for sure. So I slip up here and there, letting all the negatives get the best of me, but I'm trying. I can say that much, at least I'm trying. That's better. That's a start. Fade into roaring applause. And there I am again, fighting. And I'm pushing the tiger back with a whip in one hand and a chair in the other. But it's a start. Thank you. I do have one. Well, again, this is like choosing someone else's work. What doing this today makes me feel is that I have more to write, and I hope that you guys do too. I haven't written anything with the intention of releasing it to the world or even posting it on a website or anything, because I felt like the permanence of putting something on paper and selling it, it means that your deepest, darkest thoughts, if you're being honest and you're just writing what you actually believe, it's a vulnerability that doesn't exist anywhere else. Like there are things I say in both of these books that, like the story I told about the human tit in the shoebox, complete fiction. But then there are stories that are just as awful that are not fiction. And the book's labeled fiction and literature because I don't necessarily want people to know what's what. So that's hard to get back into, that idea that I could write down my current deepest, darkest thoughts and my daughter will read them in 10 years. So I applaud everyone who's creating, and I urge you to continue to create and fight the same fight I'm having where, sometimes it doesn't feel worth it. But if you get something from it, that's really what it's for. Whether you share it or not, just write your feelings and connect with that unexplainable part of yourself. Okay, thank you very, very much.